You are being lied to about your fertility. This is an extraordinarily important topic that I'm excited to bring to you guys today. You're being lied to about your biological clock and about your fertility and about making babies. You're being lied to. Let's talk about this. As someone who works in the field of like women's hormonal health, I help women get their period back. And as a desired mama to be, not like actually mama to be, but like in the next couple of years, like definitely want to start having kids. Um, I find this topic of fertility and of women bearing children fascinating. It's one of my favorite topics to talk about with my younger sister, as she's a doula and she also already has a kid. She like had a kid when she was like 23, so she got started, early on that process. And she stepped into motherhood at a time when I was like, "Ooh, I'm getting really curious about this now." And we've been able to bond a lot over that, even though I don't have the little kiddos yet, but they will be coming at some point in my life. Hopefully, like 4 or 5 of them. All right, this is what we need to talk about today. There is a couple different narratives going on in our world that I've picked up on that I think are very dangerous when it comes to your fertility. Number one, we have the whole like feminist movement narrative of we can be like better than men and we can be boss babes and we can build our own businesses and we can work and we can be in tech and we can do all these things, right? And, we can graduate from college and career is important and career is great. And we have that like big narrative going on. Now, listen, I'm all for women working. Look at what I do, okay? Working right now. I'm all for women working. I'm all for women being educated. I'm not in any way, shape, or form saying that I am in disagreement with those two things. But I think it is fair to say that there has been an unhealthy push for women to forget about kids, forget about their fertile years, and to focus on the thing that matters most, which is making money. Now, again, I'm all for women making money, okay? All for it. But I think that narrative has come at the expense of women really taking motherhood and taking their fertility seriously. Because from a young age, like us millennial women, I think we especially, this was kind of definitely the first generation that I feel like really got this. We were told to push, to be better, to accomplish all these things, to graduate school, to have all these accolades behind us. And that's great. And I'm so excited that we get to do that. And at the same time, it's like, and we can't just pretend like we're not the human beings on this planet that literally bring more human beings on this planet. And our fertile years are our 20s and our 30s. And we can't just pretend that this doesn't exist, because there is a moment where your body will say, no more. You can't have kids. No more. It's not going to happen, right? And unfortunately, I feel like because we're so career oriented and we kind of forget, a lot of us, I feel like, kind of forget about this thing called, hey, kids and your body being at the prime age to have kids, and it might be harder later on, like that doesn't get shared. Before I talk about this next narrative, I do have to say that not everyone needs to have kids. Like my older sister, she's never going to have kids. Love her to death. I don't think she needs kids. I'm not trying to force kids on anyone. But I'm saying for those women who later on are like, oh, wait, I do want to have kids, and then they're 36 by the time they figure that out. Like, this is just the kind of the pattern we are seeing right now. And it gets a lot of women who actually do want to be mothers in trouble because they were so career oriented. But again, if you absolutely do not want to have kids, that's your prerogative, 1,000,000,000%. If you don't want to have them, honestly, don't have them, because it's a lot of sacrifice, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of patience. Like, don't have them unless you were clear about wanting to have them. But I do have to say that I think that that narrative that your career is more important does make a lot of women who naturally would have wanted to be a mother and be very nurturing and be at the home and take care of their kids, has made them think that that is a lesser than job, and something that's not of value or of worth really like seeking after or really going after. Like if you're 22 years old and you outwardly say, I want to be a stay-at-home mom, people are going to look at you and be like, why? What's wrong with you? Like, are you okay? Like, that's only your aspiration? I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, you guys, that's a big aspiration. That is huge to be a mother and to be a stay-at-home mom, especially because those are very, very formative years. And those beginning years of a child's life, it's extremely formative for them to have a stable parent at home consistently, right? And not to be thrown around to daycare, to nannies and babysitters and all of that. They need to have stability. So, and now I'm not judging people who get nannies and who get support and have to put their kids in daycare. I honestly am more just pissed at the world that we've created this place that is so dang pricey that a couple most likely has to have dual income. I absolutely think that is just absolutely SHITTY that our society is built in this way. But anyways, to want to be the one that is raising your child, like that is aspirational. That is a lot of work and it is very important. Okay, so that's that one narrative. The second narrative that's happening is you need to look a certain way. You need to be super thin. You need to diet. You need to be able to fit in these type of clothes. There's a big narrative, mainly, coming from diet culture and stuff, that tells women that their main job is to look pretty and to look a certain way and to maintain a certain body size and shape. And so then we get preoccupied and obsessed with going to the gym and counting calories and making sure that we weigh a certain amount. And now I have to say that I am not against women taking care of their health. I am not against women putting themselves together. I love to get dressed up, to put on my earrings. I just bought this top yesterday, like super stoked, love it. I am not against women wanting to be healthy, right? What I am against is women thinking that health is extreme dieting, intense working out, like HIIT workouts 7 days a week, 20-mile runs, things like that. And them thinking that simply how they look is the thing that makes them a good person or the thing that kind of brings them value in this world, okay? So these two strong narratives that lead to women honestly just putting aside this conversation of babies. And so this is what I see in my work, right? Everything I'm talking about is always just like, what am I seeing here? What I see in my work and also just what I see in my life in general, because as I'm stepping into my 30s here in the next year, I have a lot of friends, not to mention even, my siblings who are like 40s and upper 30s. And then, a lot of my friends are upper 30s. I see a lot of this going on where women at the age of 35, 36, all of a sudden, after years of focusing on their career and focusing on having six-pack abs and all of that, they all of a sudden realize that they want to have kids. So this is the conversation we need to have, because I know a lot of you guys in recovery are kind of putting off recovery because you're like, I don't want to have kids right now. But let me tell you why that is an extraordinarily dangerous sentence to say. I'm not going to work on getting my period back right now. I'm not going to work on getting healthy and having a healthy relationship to food and a healthy relationship to my body. Because I don't even want kids right now. That's not even in the realm of thought. This is why that narrative is extraordinarily dangerous. Let me give an example of a client that I had. I'm going to say her name is Sally just for, client privacy here. But she came to me at 37 years old, crying, literally. Like that first call that I hopped on with her, I said hello, and within 2 seconds, tears, like just tears. I was like, hey, what's going on here? She goes and she explains that she didn't have a period for most of her 20s. She didn't get her period back until she was 32 years old. She got married at 30 and, didn't get her period back till 32. And then at 35, her and her husband decided, okay, we want kids. And so she tried and she tried and she tried and she got pregnant and she miscarried and she tried and she tried another miscarriage and she tried. And here she is now 37 years old, freaking out at the fact that her biological clock is ticking. It is harder to get pregnant in your 30s, in your later 30s especially. It is harder. That is just science. Yes, I know some women can do it. I know that there's a narrative right now of women going like, don't worry, it's okay. This biological clock's not a big thing. You can have kids when you're 38. I'm like you don't just get pregnant all the time, just immediately. In fact, a lot of people struggle with infertility. A lot of people have trouble getting pregnant. So you try to start having a baby at 38 years old, and it may take you a year to get pregnant, and then you may miscarriage. And let's say you even do get pregnant. Let's say you want 2 or 3 kids. Well, then you got to go through the whole pregnancy 9 months. You got to then breastfeed at least 6 months, right? Is the healthy amount of time for breastfeeding. You're not going to be getting your period back most likely during that time. It's hard to get pregnant while you're breastfeeding. Not to say it's impossible, but just saying it's a lot harder too. And then your body's going to have to kind of like really recoup from the whole process. And then so that's another like 2 years. And then you might get pregnant and you're 40 at that point. And it's going to be even harder to get pregnant at 40 than it was at 38. Again, I'm not saying it's always like that. And some women can easy breezy, beautiful, just get pregnant at 38 years old, first try, boom, okay, amazing for them. But we have to understand the reality that that is not the reality. And by telling women that they should just continue to push it off so that they can just start focusing on other things, I think it's a very dangerous narrative. It is not understanding the sacredness of motherhood and the importance of motherhood. Did you know that our whole economy literally falls apart if our birth rate starts dropping? Because then the whole system starts collapsing, right? Because all of a sudden we have more retired people than we have people in the workforce. And it's actually a very dangerous thing. Not to mention that the majority of women, again, not all women, but the majority of women do have that natural innate instinct to want to have children. And yet we're sidetracking them. And for us who are here in this channel, you're most likely someone who's lost their period, struggling with EDs and struggling with a healthy relationship with food. You're putting off this period recovery because you think you have time. If you are 25 and you don't have your period, you don't have that much time. You need to get that period back. You need to give your body at least a year, hopefully 2-3 years if you can, of nutritional rehabilitation, of really having good hormonal balance for a while, really building up your store so that you can go through a healthy pregnancy and the baby doesn't deplete so much from you. You're gonna have to meet someone. You're gonna have to go through this whole process, right, of building a relationship, and then you're gonna have to start the process of trying, and it may take a while. I know so many friends who have had miscarriages, and it's like it takes a while to grieve, to go through that process, and then to for your body to bounce back and to get your period back, and then for you to feel ready to go through the process again. And I hope that you don't go through a miscarriage, but I'm just saying it's a big possibility. And so this is the lie, that you have time. You don't have time. So if you're thinking, oh my gosh, yeah, I actually am going to want to have children, I'm going to want to have a family, you need to start thinking about that now, in your early 20s. Oh my gosh, if you're in your 30s, think about it. Start taking action if you're in your 30s. You don't have that much longer. And it's not to pressure you. It's not to be like, oh my gosh, go find the first man who's just going to give you babies, right? It's not to say get in the wrong relationships and just start having kids when you're not ready, right? But it's, can we be smart and understand that eventually biology is going to kick in and you're going to go into menopause and your body's going to say no more babies. And so we need to think about how we are going to manage these crucial years that we have, let's say anywhere from 20 to 38, 40, right? We need to learn how to manage this time properly. I know for me, the whole push behind getting my period back was so that I could have my fertility back. Because I was like, I'm 25 years old and I'm counting my almonds and I weigh nothing. And and I have a BMI of like 12, and this is extraordinarily bad, and I'm not going to be able to have kids, let alone I can't date in this state that I'm in, where I'm preoccupied just about me and my body and what I'm eating and clean eating and everything that's coming into my body. Couldn't date. And so honestly, like it wasn't until I was like 26 years old that I even like started dating. 28 years old was the first time I had a boyfriend. Because it's a process. I had to run through a couple people. I had to learn about, wow, this is what a relationship means. And I'm learning later on because, again, I'm so preoccupied with, I got to be working, and I got to have a big bank account, and I got to look a certain way. I got to eat a certain way, and I got to diet, and I got to maintain a certain weight. And I was so focused on other things. Again, not saying that having that desire to be successful is bad, but you got to understand that you got to bring some attention to this side of things too, and understand when something's becoming unbalanced and when something is taking you away from what might end up in the end of the day being the more important thing to you. Like in the end of the day, is money more important than kids? Now I know we live in a world where financial stability is important, but honestly, at the end of the day, is having a big fat bank account more important to you than having kids? And everyone will be different. And I don't shame you for that being different. I just want you to ask yourself those questions so that you don't end up being 37 years old and realizing, oh crap, I need to get my period back and I want 4 kids. Because that ain't going to happen most likely. All right, you guys. I don't know where that came from today, but I've been in a baby crazy mood, to be honest. And I've just had a lot of clients come to me really struggling getting pregnant, and they're in their later 30s. And it honestly is just really sad to see. And I want you guys to avoid that if possible. Hence the conversation. All right, guys, that's it for me today. I love you tons. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. It helps a ton on my channel. And also go and check out my latest video over here. Love you guys ton. Bye.